So, what is next? Well, let me tell you, we're talking about the console wars. Yes, we're talking about the little petty battle between fanboys from Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation. I wouldn't really necessarily include PC from that because they're not really fans of anything. There's so many specifications for PC because if you have a low end PC and then you're battling against a high end PC guy, the high end PC guy is going to trash you regardless if you pay on PC or not. But if you play on Xbox, you have the Xbox One, and then another person has the Xbox One X, they still consider you as part of the family. Even if you have the old 360, they're just waiting for you to kind of jump on board. Including the Nintendo, it's a little different. If you're playing on the GameCube, people kind of understand that, but they're still saying, hey, you're old, upgrade. PlayStation is kind of the same way, in my personal opinion. Just like Xbox, if you're playing on the PS3, you're basically just waiting for the PS4 to drop down in price so you can pick it up, or you're waiting for the next console after that, the PS5, to come out just so you can pick up the PS4 for and then all the games for uber cheap. But yes, we're talking about the console wars. So as we're getting into this, let's go ahead and start off how the consoles got together. NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, pretty much started it all. Yes, there was console prior to the entertainment or the Nintendo system, like the Atari and such things, but no one really cares about them because immediately they dropped the SNES. Nintendo brought out the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and that had legendary games such as Mario, Zelda, and Donkey Kong, games that people are still playing 30 plus years later. That's insane. They had magnificent games on the N64, such as like Perfect Dark, 007 GoldenEye, again Mario Karts, Donkey Kongs, Zeldas. I mean, it's just endless. Killer Instinct, and it's just endless amount of games that came out on that. So, and then all of a sudden, between these battles between Nintendo and Sega, because Sega was putting up haymakers as well with games. Sonic, definitely one of their iconic games, but they have games like Shinobi, things like that, that just really sort of will solidify their space in the console game industry. But then PlayStation decides to kind of crack in that, seeing that Atari falling off, they think they can do a better job. Lo and behold, they do, but just to kind of get into that space, battling against like the Sega Genesis and things like that. But with the failing of Sega Saturn, that really left a hole for Nintendo, or at least a true competitor that Nintendo needed. Nintendo desperately needed, because they're starting to fall off. Nintendo 64 games are starting to fall off at the end of its life cycle. Rare making most of their games as a Rare developer now owned by Microsoft. They kind of got in like a little dispute, which they really, I don't know, couldn't really figure out. Leading Rare to kind of go into a situation where they needed money, hence Xbox coming out. So prior to that, PlayStation kind of breaks its way in with games like Metal Gear Solid and things like, and the demos. Oh man, those demos that used to come out on the CDs that you can play. I used to play games like Tony Hawk on there first, Bloody Roar. I mean, some crazy games, Tomb Raider games on there. So it was very fun, very exciting to get that PlayStation. And then CDs, and going away from the cartridges. I mean, PlayStation really knew how to impress its consumers. So Sega has this Sega Dreamcast, which I actually like the Sega Dreamcast, but a lot of people weren't really making games for the Sega Dreamcast. Like every game system had like an array of different games. Like I don't know if they were exclusive, time exclusive, or what was going on there, but by the games they had, what console your friends were playing on. And that was kind of cool, but that led you to buying so many consoles just to play so many of these quote-unquote exclusive games. But anyways, Sega went downhill and Xbox stepped in, and they saw their chance to get into the console race. But they really had a tough time because it cost a lot of money at that point in time to get into that race. I mean, two companies have just failed by now, and some other companies did too, but that was at the beginning of the console war, so they didn't really understand what was going on. You had Atari and Sega already failing, so you think you're going to just come in here and try to create this space and then try to take on now the big Nintendo, now the big PlayStation, launching with the PlayStation 2. That's basically one of the best-selling consoles ever. And Nintendo with the most legendary exclusives ever. That's crazy. But Xbox had some games itself. It took on pretty much the entire Sega catalog and added it to their exclusive library. The day where Xbox actually did have exclusives, and then they had Halo. I'm talking about Halo. Yes, the Halo. And then after that, they basically making their place into the industry. The console wars really bringing up the heat because GameCube was great. No matter what whoever says it, Animal Crossing was just amazing on that game. I love The Sims on the GameCube too. Then Xbox created multiplayer. Now Xbox started charging people for the multiplayer first, so they were definitely anti-consumer in that nature, I guess, or not really anti-consumer, because when GameCube and PlayStation, or not GameCube, Nintendo and PlayStation started doing their online features after Xbox, they weren't charging anybody. PlayStation started charging during the PS4 era. You can still play PS3 online for free, I believe. And then Nintendo jumped on that train as well. So after Xbox started doing the whole Xbox Live services, they had Xbox 360, one of the first new HD consoles to come out, I believe in 2006, right before, 1 year before the 2007 PS3, the $600 beast with Blu-ray, and then I believe 2 years before Nintendo Wii. I believe, I could be totally wrong on that. But that really broke they came out with games like Halo. Again, I mean, they already had Halo, but like Halo 3, which was damn sure one of the best Halos ever made. Arguably very close to Halo 2 and Halo 1, just because of nostalgia reasons. Because I played the crap out of Halo 1 demo disc when it first came out. But then the PS3, or excuse me, they had Gears of War. They had games like Forza. They had things like that. They just come out. They had still a lot of exclusives. Not as many as the Xbox era, because they had like Sega GT. They had Jet Set Radio Future or whatever. They had a lot of the Sega back catalog, right? But they still had games on Xbox 360. And then when the PS3 launched and the Nintendo Wii launched, and the Nintendo Wii basically being the casual console of the generation, selling a lot more than both the consoles, PS3 and Xbox 360. When Xbox One launched their consoles at that point, the console wars was just insane at this point. Like if you had, like I said, back in the day, you can own a Sega, you can own a Nintendo, you can own a PlayStation, and no one would have said otherwise. It's just like, oh, okay, that's fine. Like, I won't bring my extra controller because I don't have that, that console. But now, after the 360 era, it was what game you're going to play, because multiplayer, right? You got to play with your friends. What console are you playing on? What console are you going to get? Because I want to play with my friends. You need to get this console because I want to play with you, right? While PC is just sitting in the background, just like, hey, whatever, PC master race. No one really cared, because PC was still a niche kind of gaming. And what I mean by niche is just like, when you're PC gaming, there was a stigma, right? When, if you're watching anime, if you were into superheroes, there was a stigma to it. Or you're playing card games or something like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or something, there was a stigma to it. And people didn't really want to associate with you in a certain way, right? It was just really weird. It's like you can be a clique. Like it was a clique kind of thing, But anyways, at that point where Xbox One, PS4, and Nintendo Switch came out, well, not really Nintendo Switch, because they had the Wii U, which completely flopped. It had great games, but just completely flopped. No one wanted to play